Hey everybody, Hobo4Craft, aka Mr. Hobo here, and we are looking to have what's going to be a promising game today. It's going to be aTnDarkforce versus Grubby. Now if you don't know much about Dark Force, as he's not one of the more recognized players such as Idra, well, he has actually done pretty well for himself in his StarCraft 2 career. He's placed very well in multiple Zotac and Go for SE2 Cups, placing first and second on multiple occasions, and I do believe he actually placed fifth in one of the ESLs, I think season 17, so that's pretty nice achievements. Grubby, on the other hand, is just more well known for his Warcraft 3 dominance. He was just an excellent orc player, and as far as StarCraft 2 goes, he's still switching over and really starting to grind out many hours of practice, and you can tell it's really starting to pay off, though he doesn't really have much tournament wins to show for that. But it does look like he wants to go for an expansion first type of play. As we can see, he did throw down this pylon up here, which is a dead giveaway. If a Protoss is going to be really conservative, he's just going to wall off here like you normally would see in any other game, but it looks like we're actually getting a 15-14 type of play going for Dark Force, throwing down that extractor at 15 and then getting that spawning pool. This is a very safe build. Rarely do you see players go for that hatchery first against Protoss, because Protoss can punish them so easily for that, so just going to be very safe in that manner. And it seems that as though Dark Force will scout Grubby here, coming up pretty soon, and we do see that bank account opening up, so we will get that Nexus first, and Dark Force looked like he wanted to try to steal that, but that was not going to happen. Grubby now just probing up, and we see that Dark Force is just transitioning out of this, is going to want to expand soon. It's going to be around the 20 supply mark, and now we're getting that forge from Grubby. And one huge thing that tosses really have to make sure of is that they wall off completely, seal tight. They don't want any Zerglings getting through, because when they go for this type of play, they can get a Zergling into their base, and it's just very scoutable. And if they wanted to go for a Stargate or something of that manner, the Zerg would be able to tell very easily. You see, we get Dark Force get that 100 gas and then stop immediately, and from there he will get that metabolic boost. So getting as many minerals as possible, not wanting to stay on gas, so he is just going to go for a standard 14-14-21 build here, throwing down that hatch with that scouting drone. And it seems as though Grubby is completely walled off here, though his photon cannon and pylon are a little close to his other buildings. This would only be trouble. Oh, it looks like it is completely closed off. This would only be trouble if we saw Dark Force go for a very heavy roach all-in, or not even an all-in, just a pressure like we see Idra trying a lot. So it looks like both players are just going to start macroing up here. Now, an appropriate response for the Zerg, for Dark Force to do right here, would be to go for another hatchery. Yes, that would be a third base or a second expansion. And the reason he can do this is because Grubby, well, first of all, he's walled off. Second of all, he's not going to be focusing on units, but rather just on getting probes himself. That is the whole reason he went for this build. He wanted to be able to keep on tab with the macro of the Zerg. And so we can see Dark Force is, in fact, breaking down these destructible rocks, and he most certainly will be throwing down an expansion there. And we can just see all drones and all probes for both players. Now, he is sending out a Zealot, and this is just going to be for scouting, and he does want to take a little bit of the map control that Dark Force will easily have otherwise, because he can just send one or two Zerglings to a couple of the Xel'Naga towers and know exactly what's going on throughout the map, and Grubby doesn't want that. So he's just going to make two Zealots to clean that up. And we see Grubby taking only 3 gases as of yet, so he probably isn't going for anything too gas intensive, such as Dark Templar or maybe even Stargate units, but it looks like he is taking his 4th now Grubby is known to favor gateways and warp gate play, so we could definitely see that from him. But in the meantime, DarkForce just has been droning up. If we go to the income tab, we can see players are just about even. Those larva pops and those chrono boosts really are starting to even out at this stage of the game. But once DarkForce does get this hatchery going and this expansion nice and saturated, he will pull ahead. And that's why it's a little bit risky to go for this type of build as well, because you kind of keep yourself closed in and you can't expand with your third for a while, which is exactly what Protoss wants. Getting their third makes them very powerful because they can afford huge gateway armies and many high-tech units, which makes their composition very powerful. It looks like DarkForce kind of misclicked here, and he's not getting as much gas as he could, and this is actually going to be pretty serious. Okay, he notices it, but that really could have been a problem because Zerg needs their gas so badly against Protoss, especially when they want to go for Broodlords later in the game, or if they just want to go for Mass Roach, or especially if they want to go for Baneling play. And it looks like DarkForce might be favoring that, as he's only gotten an Evo chamber down as of right now, and he is popping out more speedlings. So we'll have to wait and see just a little bit longer, but we are getting additional warp gates. And Grubby is going to, a very nice play, he's going to get that down to just a couple life, wait for the warp gate to finish, spawn a sentry, and then take it down. Looks like, normally you do take down your forge, but it looks like he wants the upgrades, so that's totally acceptable, very smart thing to do. He is getting that robo facility as well, so it looks like he's really gearing up just to go into a standard sort of game. He didn't want to take advantage of this wall off in any sort of way that another Protoss player would, such as hiding buildings and throwing the Zerg for a loss when he is caught off guard, because it's not easy at all for the Zerg to scout inside of a Protoss base when it's completely walled off. Now we see that this base is getting saturated, and we do have a Spire up, so I think it might just be a Ling Muta play, and we do have 6 Mutas out on the field, and this early, that's a pretty good amount. However, Grubby is anticipating this, knowing his timings and getting that photon cannon down already. Now this is going to be a pretty vulnerable army. I would not come out, and this is exactly why Grubby could lose a ton here, but brilliantly placed force fields will keep him from losing any units whatsoever. And if we go to the units lost tab, we can see that Grubby is just staying pretty much even, though he has lost a considerable amount from those zealots early on in the game. And the Zerg is actually just expanding again, making sure no proxy pylons are here with that Zergling. And DarkForce is having the exact correct idea here, trying to pick off as much as possible, just flying around looking for any weak spots, and that is just the most intelligent thing to do at this point. DarkForce making sure no proxy pylons are going on anywhere, doing a very good job of scouting mid and late game with these Zerglings, which is some things that most Zergs do struggle with, because they tend to get a little bit lazy and just have a glob of Zerglings back at their base. Now picking off a pylon that was meant for this second expansion here, and it looks like DarkForce wants to poke up here, but that's going to be a bad idea. We have a good amount of Grubby's Stalkers waiting, and this Photon Cannon as well, and we are getting that Blink. So it's going to be Blink Stalkers versus Mutiling. A good transition for DarkForce at this point would be Infestors, and if he got Banelings with that, Baneling drop or just Baneling speed while Blink Stalkers are fungled would be very deadly. But it looks like he's just going for this pure Mutiling, which can be very effective when you have the appropriate upgrades. Otherwise, you can just get torn apart by High Templars, as we might see from Grubby. That's a very smart thing to do. He might even go for Archons, but Blink Stalkers alone are very effective against a considerable amount of Mutas, but throwing in those High Templar are really going to make him hesitant to want to push forward. And it looks like DarkForce is going to try to pick off a couple Stalkers, but I believe he lost 3 Mutas there. Getting a little lazy on his control, or maybe a little careless. Nice observer placement here, and we are just seeing more and more upgrades. This is the smart thing for Darkforce to do. And while it may seem like he's not doing much, he has gained map control at this point, trying to keep Grubby in his base, but it looks like Grubby is going to blink forward, take out a huge number of Zerglings, and Darkforce does not want to be in this position right now. He's just going to go for Grubby's base, and this is the very smart thing to do. It looks like 2 Archons are on the field now with a huge amount of sentries, which will be great for Guardian Shield. And Blink Stalkers will now just be flowing out from Grubby as he is up and completely saturated at both bases and ready to push forward. Now, we could have seen a very aggressive push right there from Grubby, but Darkforce did the very smart thing, which was divert his attention to his main base by just going in with his mutas and just using the mobility of the mutas to be able to take map control and delay for a little bit more time. If we go to the income tab, we can see that Darkforce is way ahead because he has spread himself out over 4 bases, while Grubby is purely on 2. And you know what? Actually, he's doing a lot of risky harassment, actually losing a lot of Mutalisks, and I can't say that he wants to free up some supply because he's making more Mutalisks. So really he has to be a lot more careful with this. I know that he wants to keep Grubby at bay and just delay as much as possible for his upgrades and other tech, but really losing mutas is not the way to go. We still only have a couple Archons. I do think a couple High Templar for Storms would be very agreeable at this point, and not a lot of Zerglings, but it looks like it's going to be an eye for an eye here. It looks like Darkforce is going to be pushing in, picking off a couple pylons and stalkers, moving around, but there are far too many photon cannons at this point. In the meantime, if Darkforce is not paying attention, he's losing units at his main, and Grubby will be pushing up, losing a lot of overlords. This is not what he wants, and he's just going to stream in with a bunch of speedlings, and this is where the mobility of the Zerg's army is really going to come into play, but the ability to warp in however many units he wants at one time is really going to hurt Darkforce at this point. He has taken out the main nexus of Grubby, but will it be enough as his natural has been taken out in the meantime? Grubby just storming forward, and Darkforce is now going to go for this Templar Archives. Very smart idea, as it will delay any more of these high-tech units coming out. There is not enough energy for a storm there, and it looks like it's just going to be a base race at this point, and it might be looking in the favor of Darkforce as he does have more bases and he is much more mobile, but Grubby is very crafty. He has been in this situation many times before, so it's going to come down to the wire. Now the Spire and every other tech building is gone for Darkforce, and just about the same can be said for Grubby, except for this one lonely Cybernetics core and this Twilight Council still pushing forward. A considerable amount of photon cannons are being warped in. Will they finish in time? It looks like yes, and these 3 Stalkers are going to do heavy damage to these Mutalisks, which will not be able to take this amount of damage for much longer unless they do focus fire down the Stalkers. Looks like they will, and Grubby just has to click his way to victory. If he can just keep his buildings going, if he can spread out some of his probes and possibly throw down some hidden buildings, which is exactly what he needs to do. Maybe a couple of extractors, maybe assimilators for Grubby, and this is just a very odd game. Some Zergs do want this situation because of the mobility of their speedling Mutalisk play, but I don't know if Darkforce is very comfortable at this time. But it looks like Grubby is going to be revealed. He hasn't built another Nexus, and he does have enough. We can see he has just enough for a Nexus and maybe a couple of pylons. And the thing is, Darkforce really has the mobility, but Grubby has the power, as all of his units do much more damage and can take out buildings much more quickly. But it looks like he is leaving buildings behind, such as these extractors and the Spore Crawler, which really can come back to hurt him. And Darkforce plowing through everything slowly but surely, and he just may have Grubby right where he wants him. Grubby's doing the only thing he can do, blinking forward, trying to go for all these buildings that he knows hidden. And Darkforce now moving into the main. Grubby really needs to throw something down before all of his last buildings are done for. And it seems as though he's going to throw down a Nexus in this corner. Very obscure spot. And we just might see a GG from either player soon. Grubby really needs to throw this down. I don't know why he is hesitating. And it looks like 2 drones. Oh, not left behind. There they go. And actually just throwing down a pylon. Okay, being very conservative. Wants to save minerals for maybe when he needs it later. You can see he does have a nice spread, and now aTnDarkforce really does have a better bank account, if you will, and will be able to spread himself out more as he can have the resources to spend. And really now it's just going to be a hide and seek game. Where's Waldo? aTnDarkforce really needs to find this lone pylon, but Grubby's really just going to spread himself out, and it's just going to come down to who can spread himself out the best, who can hide the best, and who can find the best. I think the best intention of aTnDarkforce would be to spread his mutas out as much as possible, but it looks like Grubby will find one of the bases that was actually mining for aTnDarkforce, and surely that is going to be a morale booster right there. In the meantime, we have found one of the pylons. Here's a probe, and here is another pylon. It looks like aTnDarkforce is on the exact route to find this pylon. Oh, Grubby needs to find one of his idle probes and make another building soon, or he might lose right here. No, it looks like he does have another building, but where? Oh, he took the assimilator off of his second expansion. But aTnDarkforce actually getting found again. There goes a second hatchery. And aTnDarkforce actually might come in confrontation with this army. No, he barely avoided it. Oh, and there's a drone found. Little things like this are actually huge. Picking off the stalker. Nice recognition and nice scouting right there from aTnDarkforce. And this is just quite a bizarre game. You know, I've seen a lot of base trades, but I don't think I've seen any that have dragged on this long, especially between 2 pros. But we can see that each really wants this win. I do believe this match was from a King of the Hill tournament, so it can be understood that they're both really wanting this win and don't want to give up anytime soon. Now, the advantage that aTnDarkforce has, as he has been lucky enough to be mining on several occasions, so he's really been able to keep his minerals coming up, and that really allows him to spread himself out even more for more buildings. But Grubby is just coming back at it. It looks like he's going to be a little too late. Wanted to intercept some mutilas, but it looks like another assimilator has fallen, as did this one. And I think only these 2 remain. Looks like he only has enough for 2 more of these assimilators. But it looks like this assimilator was right in the vision of Grubby, or excuse me, of aTnDarkforce. Certainly not the best situation here for Grubby. And if my predictions are correct, I think aTnDarkforce, with his Mutalis, his ability to fly anywhere very quickly, I think he just might be able to pull out this game, unless Grubby with his sick micro can somehow manage to catch a ton of these Mutalis off guard and just be able to pick them off, and from there take control. But Grubby actually taking out one of aTnDarkforce's hatcheries again, and aTnDarkforce can spread himself out. We can see that this mining really is helping him hugely. There goes down another lone stalker. Grubby needs to keep his units together at this point, no matter how badly he does want to scout. And it looks like only these 2 assimilators are left. And aTnDarkforce is headed right for them. Here's the probe. Here is the culprit. And this drone, this hero drone, did scout that out. And one of the drones is being intercepted here. This hatchery will be denied, most assuredly. And Grubby is still not aware of this top right expansion, which is allowing aTnDarkforce to just be everywhere at once. And Grubby really just slowly dying out. I think this might be one of the last probes. It looks like he has 2 left. Oh, he only has 1 probe left, and that is huge. If he can take down this assimilator, I do think this will be the last building. No, he threw down a pylon with his last 100 minerals. And it is all going to come down to this. Certainly very tense moment. Grubby does not want to lose this game. Darkforce has just been struggling through this. And he's even throwing down another hatchery. He's currently on 4 hatcheries, looking very solid at this point. And Grubby's just going to do the smart thing and puppy guard this. And I'm not sure if Darkforce just went right for it. I don't know if his Mutalisk would be able to take down this pylon in time. Really, it's hard to say. It looks like Grubby's having a little fun with it, getting his Guardian Shields up early, but 4 Lone Stalkers are going to get taken out. Make that 5. Really not a good situation, even in Immortal. And the hatchery still stands. That's got to be just a terrible blow for Grubby. And if Darkforce wants to go and confront this, no, oh no, Grubby, you're going to have all these Stalkers die. This is not what you want at this point. But I guess he can't puppy guard this forever, as it would just be a waiting game. Grubby blinking around, trying to keep these alive. He did scout this. He knows what's there. And he really has to be in low hopes at this point. And oh, it looks like he's actually leaving his pylon alone. But it looks like Darkforce is just going to go right for the sentries, and this has to be a good game here. All the sentries down. No more Guardian Shield, and these Mutos will be able to do so much damage to the units of Grubby. Darkforce no longer going for the buildings, rather just going straight for these units. Going to Magic Box. These Archons here take as little splash damage as possible, and there is the good game. So very tense game, very drawn out, but both players just fighting till the end very nobly, and Darkforce is able to scratch out that win. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Very tense game. This is Hobo4Craft signing out.